Today, buying a home has become an increasingly distant goal for most people. Even when they are willing to carry massive loans on their shoulders for several decades, many still cannot manage to own a stable home of their own. And this situation is not limited to just one place. It is happening in many countries around the world, becoming a shared concern for an entire generation. In the past, owning a house was once an important milestone that many people could realistically achieve. By simply working hard and saving money over a certain period of time, many were able to buy a home while still keeping financial pressure within a manageable level. But today, things have changed. Real estate prices have risen far faster than income growth. The cost of living keeps getting more expensive, and home loans have become a heavy burden in everyday life. Many young people, even those with stable jobs and good incomes, still have to postpone their plans to buy a home or continue living under long-term financial pressure. So what exactly has caused homeownership, something that used to be a common and achievable goal, to become out of reach for so many people today? In today's video, we are going to explore what is really happening behind the housing market and why the dream of owning a home has now become so difficult for most people to reach. And to better understand the issue, let us begin with the story of BoBo. Number 1. Why we can no longer afford to buy a home. BoBo is an ordinary salaried worker. Every month, the moment he receives his paycheck, he has to divide that money into many unavoidable expenses: rent, electricity, and water bills, fuel for commuting, and the loaves of bread he buys to get through daily life. After subtracting all these essential needs, the amount of money left to save for his dream of buying a home is actually far smaller than he originally expected.
BoBo sets a goal of buying an apartment worth about $400,000.
To achieve that goal, he begins living extremely frugally, trying to save $2,000 each month by cutting down almost every possible expense. According to his calculations, if he continues saving consistently for many years, that amount of money should eventually help him reach the home he has always dreamed of. But reality turns out to be completely different. After a year of hard work and saving $24,000, BoBo believes he has moved one step closer. Yet when he looks back at the market, he is stunned to realize that the apartment he once had his eyes on has not become cheaper.
Instead, its price has increased by about $10,000.
What is frustrating is that the money he carefully saved throughout the entire year still does not create any real progress. While he is trying to run toward his goal, that very goal keeps moving farther away. BoBo's situation feels like trying to run up an escalator that is moving in the opposite direction. The faster he steps forward, the more exhausted he becomes, but the distance to the top barely shrinks. And the difficulties do not stop there. To buy a home, BoBo needs an initial cash payment equal to 10% of the value of the house as a down payment. As housing prices keep rising, that 10% also becomes an enormous amount of money. As a result, even after many years of diligent saving, the money in BoBo's savings jar is still far below the strict requirements set by sellers. Meanwhile, the pressure from daily living costs continues to weigh heavily on him. BoBo still has to pay utility bills, buy fuel to commute to work, and spend money on bread every day. These basic expenses are like small leaks that constantly drain his savings fund. Some months, after paying all the essential bills, BoBo realizes he has nothing left at all and cannot save a single dollar for his dream of owning a home. Even when BoBo considers taking out a loan to cover the shortage, he runs into another barrier. Because housing prices are already extremely high, the amount he needs to borrow becomes incredibly large. At that point, the loan feels like a heavy rock tied tightly to his back for several decades. BoBo has to ask himself whether he truly has the ability to carry monthly payments of both principal and interest for such a long period of time when the borrowed amount is so huge. And this is exactly the situation that many people are facing today. They work hard, they know how to save, and they are even willing to borrow money. Yet housing prices are rising faster than their ability to earn and accumulate money. So the problem is not that people are lazy or reckless with spending. The reality is that housing prices have increased far more quickly than the financial capacity of people who want to buy a home to live in. As a result, the gap between income and homeownership keeps growing wider. Number 2. When homes become assets for making money. After a long period of trying to save money, BoBo realizes that the home he wants to buy keeps moving further out of reach. This situation comes from a major shift in how society views a house. For Bobo, a house means a place to return to after a long day of work, a place where he can rest, eat his bread, and live a stable life for many years. He simply needs a home where life feels less uncertain. However, the reality around him shows that many people no longer buy houses just to live in them. With the same house, some people buy it because they believe its price will increase, while others buy it to rent out and collect monthly income. In other words, the house becomes a profit-generating asset. This change in perspective transforms the entire market. When homes become tools for making money, people with large amounts of capital begin to move in and acquire them. For example, Lulu and Mimi are also interested in that same house. Lulu approaches it as an investor, believing that if she buys it now, she can sell it a few years later at a higher price. Mimi joins the market with another plan, buying houses to rent them out and create a steady monthly income. The house is still the same house, but its meaning is now divided into two completely different sides. For Bobo, it is a place to live. For Lulu and Mimi, it is a tool for generating money. When profit becomes the dominant goal, housing prices start being pushed upward. Investors are willing to pay higher prices because they expect future gains. As a result, the market no longer operates mainly based on real housing needs. At this point, Bobo gradually realizes that he has entered a housing market that is very different from before. A home has now become an attractive investment asset. When houses are treated as financial assets, their prices begin to rise based on expectations of future profit. People like Lulu and Mimi are willing to pay more if they believe the house will increase in value later or generate rental income each month. That dynamic keeps pushing housing prices higher and higher, far beyond what ordinary workers like Bobo can afford when all they want is a place to live. Number 3. Why housing prices keep rising, even when buyers decrease. When Bobo looks at the constantly rising prices, he thinks that sooner or later housing prices must fall. After all, under normal circumstances, when fewer people can afford to buy something, the price of that thing usually has to drop in order to sell. But what surprises Bobo is that reality moves in the opposite direction. Even though the number of people buying homes is decreasing, housing prices continue to rise. This shows that the housing market does not operate like most ordinary goods markets. The first reason involves the actual number of homes available on the market. Housing prices are determined by two factors: the number of people who want to buy and the number of homes that are available for sale. When the supply of homes remains limited, prices tend to stay high. Bobo can see many people around him complaining that buying a home is extremely difficult, but that does not suddenly create a large number of affordable houses on the market. Homes are still scarce, especially those that fit the budget of ordinary working people. Part of this scarcity also comes from the fact that new houses are not being built fast enough. In many places, building homes takes a long time because of zoning plans, permits, material costs, labor costs, and many layers of administrative procedures. Sometimes there are empty plots of land that look like they will soon become new housing projects, but then the projects get delayed year after year. Meanwhile, the demand for housing remains the same. Bobo still needs a place to live, and so do many other people. When new housing is built too slowly, the prices of existing homes continue to be pushed higher. On top of that, the homes that are built are not always the ones Bobo actually needs. If a developer owns a piece of valuable land, they often prefer building the type of housing that brings the highest profit. Instead of constructing many smaller, affordable homes, they might build fewer, larger, and more luxurious houses that can be sold at higher prices. As a result, the total number of homes on the market may increase, but the number of homes that are truly affordable for buyers who simply want a place to live, like Bobo, remains very limited. There is another factor that confuses Bobo even more. Some people already own land or houses, but they are not in a hurry to sell them. They wait for prices to rise further so they can earn more profit. Some people hold on to land for many years without building anything. Others buy houses and leave them unused, or use them for purposes other than living. This reduces the number of homes actually available for people who need a place to live. In other words, the houses may physically exist, but they are not truly options for someone like Bobo. When Bobo looks at the bigger picture, he realizes that the declining number of buyers mainly refers to people who want to buy a home to live in, but are gradually losing the ability to compete. They have to deal with high loan interest, large down payments, and rising living expenses, which slowly push them out of the market. Meanwhile, the supply of suitable homes is not increasing fast enough, and some existing homes are being held back for investment or future profit. Because of this, housing prices do not fall the way BoBo expected. For example, when BoBo goes to buy bread and hears many people complaining that it has become expensive, he assumes the price will soon drop. But when he arrives at the counter, there are still only a few loaves available. Some loaves are held back because the seller wants to wait until the shop becomes more crowded so they can sell them at a higher price. Other loaves are turned into premium versions that are much more expensive, making them impossible for BoBo to afford. As a result, even though ordinary buyers decrease, the number of loaves that actually fit BoBo's budget remains small, and the price therefore continues to rise. Housing is operating in a similar way. The real issue is that the number of homes suitable for actual living needs is still too small. Some are held back, some are built for the wrong market segment, and some are delayed before reaching the market. When supply remains this constrained, housing prices are very unlikely to drop significantly, even when more and more people feel that they can no longer afford to buy. From this point on, BoBo finds himself entering a harsh competition. Not only does he have to face rising housing prices, but he must also compete directly with buyers who purchase homes for business and investment purposes. Number 4. Policies that seem to help buyers but actually push prices higher. When housing prices rise beyond what he can afford, BoBo often hopes for support policies such as lower mortgage interest rates, down payment assistance, or longer loan terms. At first glance, these policies seem like a lifeline that could bring him closer to his dream home. But in reality, many of these programs end up pushing housing prices even higher. The reason is that these policies artificially increase buying power. When interest rates fall or loan terms extend from 20 years to 40 years, BoBo's monthly payments become smaller, allowing him to qualify for a larger loan.
For example, instead of borrowing $200,000, he may now be able to borrow $350,000 with the same income.
However, BoBo is not the only one who benefits. Buyers like Lulu and Mimi can also borrow more money. When many people suddenly have more purchasing power, competition in the housing market rises immediately. Imagine BoBo standing at a bakery where only 10 loaves of bread remain. Normally, everyone has limited money, so prices stay stable. But if everyone suddenly receives extra money, the seller quickly realizes buyers can pay more. The price of bread rises right away. In the end, BoBo may have more money, but the loaf he wants also becomes more expensive. The housing market works the same way. When policies give buyers more money but do not increase the number of homes, that extra money flows directly into higher prices. Sellers simply raise their asking prices to capture the added purchasing power. As a result, the benefits of lower interest rates or subsidies are absorbed by rising housing prices. BoBo thinks he is getting help, but in reality, he ends up carrying a larger mortgage than before. These policies address the symptom, which is borrowing capacity, rather than the root problem, which is the shortage of affordable homes. Adding more money without increasing supply is like pouring water into a clogged pipe. The flow may not improve, but the pressure keeps rising. That is why well-intentioned policies often add more fuel to the market. Housing prices continue climbing, and the dream of homeownership moves even further away from BoBo. Number 5. Why this system is so hard to change. At this point, BoBo begins to wonder why the system is not changed to make housing more affordable. The answer is that once the financial system around housing is in motion, stopping it could cause consequences that few people want to face. First, homes have become the main form of savings for many people. For those who bought homes before BoBo, their property often represents their life savings. If policies suddenly caused housing prices to fall sharply, homeowners would see a large part of their wealth disappear. For example, imagine BoBo's neighbor borrowed $300,000 to buy a house worth $350,000. If the price drops to $250,000, the neighbor would owe the bank more money than the house is worth. Situations like that could create serious financial stress and social instability. Banks also rely heavily on real estate values. Millions of loans are secured by houses used as collateral. If housing prices collapse, the value of that collateral falls as well, putting the banking system at risk. To maintain financial stability, institutions prefer housing prices to stay high or grow steadily. Governments also collect large amounts of revenue from property-related taxes and fees. Land taxes, transfer fees, and land sales often fund public infrastructure such as roads, schools, and hospitals. Lower housing prices could reduce this important source of government income. In addition, powerful financial investors play a role. Behind individuals like Lulu and Mimi are large investment funds managing billions of dollars. These organizations can influence planning decisions to protect their profits. In a system designed to protect existing assets, buyers who simply want a home to live in, like BoBo, often become the weakest participants. Eventually, BoBo realizes he is caught in a systemic trap. It is like a high-speed train moving forward. If the train keeps going, BoBo cannot get on. But if the train stops suddenly to let him board, the passengers already inside may be hurt by the sudden shock. Housing has become a central pillar of the global economy, which is why prices cannot easily fall. Number 6. Possible ways forward. Even though the housing market appears difficult, BoBo can still find his own path by changing his strategy, rather than following the same old approach. One idea is to rethink ownership. Instead of using all his savings to buy an expensive home in the city center, BoBo could adopt a strategy of renting to live and buying to invest. He might rent a comfortable apartment close to work to save time and improve daily life, while using his savings to buy a smaller property in suburban areas, satellite towns, or more affordable markets. This allows him to own assets without sacrificing his quality of life. BoBo can also explore housing options that better match current realities or look into support programs if he qualifies. Most importantly, BoBo needs to strengthen his financial capacity. When income grows slower than housing prices and borrowing costs, saving alone is rarely enough. By investing in skills, career growth, and additional income streams, he can reach a stronger financial position and gain more choices in the future. In a market where housing prices, interest rates, and supply constantly change, the people who succeed are not always those who wait the longest. They are often the ones who know when to adapt their strategy. Today, buying a home may feel out of reach for many people, but understanding how the financial system works can help individuals redefine what a home truly means. Instead of exhausting ourselves chasing the market's definition of success, a true home often comes from choosing a living space that matches our abilities and values. Whether owning or renting, living downtown or in the suburbs, the most important thing is maintaining peace of mind and financial freedom. When debt does not control our lives, every step toward finding a place to belong becomes far more meaningful.